Hi, I'm Kelley Crimmins with Plano Parks and Recreation. Today I'm here at Arbor Hills Nature Preserve on World Animal Day with my colleague Olivia Osborne. Hey Olivia, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Olivia is with the City of Plano Sustainability and Environmental Education Department, or SEED for short. Aside from organizing the local waterway cleanups, Olivia also knows a lot about the local wildlife here in Plano. And so here at Arbor Hills, we have all types of different kinds of animals who call this place home. Okay, Olivia, so it's breakfast time and naturally I have food on the brain, so I want to talk about food. Where do a lot of animals here at Arbor Hills find their food around this nature preserve? What are their food sources?
So we have a lot of different food sources around Arbor Hills, and this is a great place to come out and see all kinds of animals in action and find those food sources. So some of those food sources are going to be our plants, flowers, and grasses. And at this time of year, you're going to get seeds, especially from our big trees like oak trees and pecan trees. And then we've got insects always, and other animals, because that's what some animals like to eat.
Well, awesome. I'm so excited to show you guys around and show you some of the ways that our residents at Arbor Hills Nature Preserve make their meals and find their meals. So let's go. Well, first I'd like to thank Shades of Green in Frisco for providing us with these beautiful plants that we're going to kind of go through. Actually, Olivia's going to kind of go through for us and talk about. So what exactly do we have here?
So right next to you, we have milkweed. So this is also sometimes called the butterfly plant because monarch butterflies love milkweed. This is where they lay their eggs, and we see monarch caterpillars. But it does something really interesting to the monarchs because the milkweed sap is toxic. So when they're caterpillars eating up all the leaves, they take in this toxic sap, and then the monarchs themselves become toxic as adults. So it kind of deters other animals from eating them, which is a neat thing that some insects can get from eating plants. So milkweed is very important for monarchs, and we've got monarch migration about to happen, so it's a good plant for us to talk about right now.
All right.
And then next down here, we have a piece of goldenrod. So goldenrod has got these beautiful yellow flowers on it. It's a fall plant, or a fall flowering plant.
Okay.
So it's a great nectar source for a bunch of different insects all through October, kind of November time. So you'll probably see lots of things buzzing around it when you come out to Arbor Hills. Next, we have one of our native prairie plants. This is little blue stem. And as you can see, it's kind of going brown, a nice like dark orangey brown.
But it still has the blue. I
see a little bit of it on there.
Yeah.
And so this is super important for a bunch of animals. We have things that eat the grass itself, insects, herbivores like deer. And then we have these seed heads that tons of birds will come and eat. And that's why it's really important for people, if you have grasses in your yard or if you're coming out to Arbor Hills, don't start pulling things because they look dead. This is super important for all animals. So you just want to leave it, especially through the winter if it's in your yard. And on that same note, here we have our black-eyed Susan, which still has some blooms on it, but what's really important again are these seed heads that form. So the seed heads you want to leave on there, again in your yard as well, because animals are going to come. Our birds are going to come to them, and all throughout winter this is what they eat because there's not as many insects around for them in the winter time. So that's why a lot of people put feeders out as well in the winter, because there's not as many food sources for them.
Okay.
So,
and then we have one more little
cluster
over here.
Cluster. We have our acorns.
Yay!
So
everybody knows what these are.
I said a little earlier that it's a great time of year for tree nuts. We see a lot of pecans falling and acorns from our oak trees. So you're going to be seeing our squirrels going crazy. And that's a big one. You know, they're going to be storing them all away for the winter and eating them, getting nice and fat. Also blue jays. Blue jays love acorns. So you'll see those hopping around oak trees. You'll see people picking up pecan nuts at Oak Point. Animals like to eat those too. Normally our rodents, because they have these big teeth to help them get into them. And then some other animals to look out for, a neat one is wood ducks. Wood ducks are super pretty. You probably see them in different ponds, waterways around Plano, but they love acorns too. So look out for wood ducks whenever you're out here.
Did not know wood ducks liked acorns. Interesting. All right, well, we're gonna go to our next stop and learn about another food source. All right, well, we're out here in the prairie area at Arbor Hills. We're on the open field trail, And this is another area where a lot of the animals here at Arbor Hills can find a meal. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of food we can find out here, Olivia?
So this is gonna be a great spot for our carnivores, our animals that are eating other animals. First off, our birds of prey are gonna love it out here. Hawks love to like sit up on the top of trees like this, kind of real high, and they'll see a snake or some kind of rodent and they will just speed down to them. Our red-tailed hawks, they're super interesting. They're probably what you're gonna see around here the most. Their talons are made for crushing their prey, so they kill them in their talons, while falcons will eat their prey. And then we also have our owls that will come out here at night, and owls have so many cool adaptations to helping them hunt. They've got flight feathers that make it silent when they fly. They've got huge eyes, kind of small brains because of that. And then they also have very powerful talons, which make it so the prey can't really struggle away from them and fall out. And another neat thing that owls do, which some birds do and we just don't really hear about it, but we mostly hear about it from owls, is they regurgitate things called owl pellets because they can't digest everything that they eat. So if you're lucky, maybe you're out here and you're under a tree where an owl has been hanging out, you might be able to find a really neat owl pellet and maybe see what's inside. If you have the right tools to do so, make sure you have gloves.
Takes me back to high school.
Yes,
I remember that. I mean,
yes.
It's really interesting how they do that and what you can learn about them through those.
Yes, you can learn a lot about their diet. And then if we're gonna go lower to the ground for animals that are eating snakes, which I love, I know not everybody loves them, but they're very cool and very important. So they're gonna be keeping our rodent populations in control. We of course have some venomous snakes here. They normally, strike their prey and the venom kills their prey and then they eat it, unless we're talking about coral snakes, which are super cool because they kind of have to chew on their prey, which is a little bit different for a venomous snake. And then we have our constrictors like rat snakes or king snakes, and they, like the famous pythons, they constrict their prey and then they consume it that way. Then finally, go a little bit bigger. We've got
there's more.
Yeah, there's more, always more. We could talk about it all day long. We've got bobcats and coyotes are gonna be out here at Arbor Hills. You're probably not gonna see them unless you're out here at nighttime or kind of around evening or in the morning. Our coyotes hunt differently depending on what prey they're gonna be taking down. And you'll probably hear them a lot, especially out in the springtime. You hear them yipping, and that's how they communicate to one another. And then our bobcats, they are stalking like ambush kind of thing. So they'll lay down in the grass if they know there's a lot of prey out here, and then they'll pop out and get it. If it's something a little bit bigger, they will kind of follow it around and then do so. But yeah, there's a lot of neat things out in a place like this, and you just need to come out here to find them.
But looking out here right now, you don't see a lot.
You definitely don't, yeah, especially because we're out here kind of late morning time. This is not the ideal time for that kind of stuff. You might be able to see a hawk, but they don't really want to be around people. So if you come out here at a time where there's less people, you might be more likely to, but it's a lot easier to look for the evidence. So like those owl pellets that we talked about, tracks in the ground, you can see a lot of signs of animals. You might not get to see them, but you can see signs that they're here.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we are going to be leaving the prairie. We're going to our last stop. We're going to go to the pond and see what kind of aquatic life we can find. So by now, it's probably pretty obvious that Arbor Hills offers a wide array of food sources for the animals who live here. The pond is no exception, as you can hear. So not only can we find aquatic life here, but mammals as well. Olivia, what all can we find here that is eatable?
You're definitely gonna find insects around here. I'm sure anyone that's been around a pond knows you start feeling the gnats and the mosquitoes flying, and that's because a lot of insects, they lay their eggs in the water and then they hatch out and they fly around as adults. And so we get a lot of things here that come to eat the insects. We eat frogs, we eat toads, turtles, fish eat insects from the surface, or even the things swimming around in the water. We'll even have things like skunks and armadillos that come around and they'll dig in the soil around here because it's soft, and there'll be lots of nice grubs around for them. And then in the background in the pond, you see we've got a lot of downed trees. And when a tree dies, it doesn't just, it doesn't die and then stop serving the ecosystem. It becomes a great place to find insects because the insects break down that dead tree, and then we'll see tons of animals going on there, probably some lizards, birds, especially we have some insectivore birds that go on and they have specialized beaks that help them like pick out the insects from our dead trees. So
all right, so things like birds who use those snags as we call them.
Yeah, they'll use the snags, and they'll be eating on just the living trees around here. So all of the insects around the pond are definitely going to bring a number of animals in. So it's a great place to see animals eating in their ecosystem.
And this pond, if you haven't been here before, it's kind of off the hidden path, that there is a pond trail that you can find, and you can go out here. It's pretty secluded though, so when you come out, just be mindful of the people around here. There's only kind of one way in and one way out, and remember to observe and don't disturb. All right, let's go to the next spot. Well, that wraps up our adventure here at Arbor Hills, learning all about animal diets and what they eat and how they find it. Thank you so much, Olivia, for joining me out here and showing us around and sharing your passion for wildlife with us.
Yeah, I love coming and talking about animals, so thank you for having me, and I hope all of you decide to go out on World Animal Day today to one of our parks and see what you can find.
We'll see you next time. Bye.